if you get this right or if you achieve a certain thing, your life would never be the same again. I think that was all the fuel and motivation that I needed to just like, what's the word? Like mold my mindset and make it stick like this permanently.
What's going on, Tinie?
What's good, bro?
You good? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to talk about well-being today.
Yes.
So how important is well-being to you?
Well-being for me is like, it's fundamental. It's pretty much like in like a whole pie of 100%. I'd say it's probably about 65, 70% of everything. Because if you feel good, if you're good mentally, physically, I feel like that kind of just prepares you for everything else that you're trying to do in your life. So I take it very seriously, and I have done from the beginning of my career.
So looking at it from a mind, body and soul perspective, are there any key habits that you've got on a day-to-day basis that you can share?
Yeah, I definitely feel like just your body as an overall thing is a muscle in a metaphorical sense. So the way that you, the more that you do something, then the more kind of it just becomes like a habit or like a second nature. And so I've just tried my best to always align myself with good habits. Like we all have bad habits, do you get what I mean? But I've always tried my best to continuously reinforce good habits. So for example, like as soon as I became quite established as a musician, I remember I used to hate going to the studio. And then being around like my older cousin, who's my manager, I remember he always used to say to me like, he basically just used to encourage me just about being in the studio like a lot more. And then so all I literally started doing is just making the trip. So like, even if I didn't have something in mind that I wanted to do or whatever, I'd just be like, this is obviously what is bringing me lots of success. So let me just make a habit of just going there as much as I can. And now I would say like I'm addicted. Like even if I've got so many other things to do, I'll always find myself in the car driving to the same place over and over again. And then in terms of like what you eat as well, I've always been quite a conscious person and try to be quite woke about all them kind of things. So eating right, eating clean, eating not necessarily like the best things, but not too much of the bad things. Do you get what I mean? That can, I don't know, change the way you look, change the way you think, the way you feel. And then I think part of your well-being also, I don't think there's enough emphasis on it, but it's kind of like who you choose to surround yourself by, because that's kind of like a mental health thing, but it's sort of just well-being overall, do you get what I mean? And my mum always used to say to me, you know, show me who your friends are, I'll show you who you are. So from a very young age, like I'm 31 now, but from a very young age, like I always used to hang around with like older people that were kind of doing well in all different walks of life, like maybe road doing well, maybe someone doing well in like a business sector, maybe someone being kind of like quite educated or whatever, just to kind of get a gauge on how life is working for all of these people and kind of trying to figure out my own direction within that. So I think, yeah, just trying to really just surround myself with a good and a great set of people from very early.
That's key. It sounds like a blueprint to success.
Maybe.
And I guess the last question I've got for you is in terms of when you've had a down moment, you know, when something's gone wrong, you've stubbed your toe, whatever the case may be, how do you switch your mindset and get yourself back in the game?
You know what's crazy? Yeah, like one of my biggest things, and this is just how I think, but for every day I wake up, like I'm happy. And you know what you said about stub your toe? Like I stubbed this finger the other day, which is why I have the plaster on it. I literally, as I was closing my door, my hand just got jammed in it really quickly and then I pulled it out. But the way my mind works is that only hurt me for probably like about 5 seconds, because I think overall, for every day that I wake up and I'm alive and I'm healthy and I have like 2 hands, 2 feet, I can see, I can hear, that's enough. Like I can do the rest. Do you get what I mean? But I just need all those things to be going right, the fundamentals, and my mindset will be the way it needs to be for me to continue. So I think, to answer your question, even in the most negative times, I just still feel like tomorrow's another day and you're still alive to be able to make the difference. Do you get what I mean? The game is over when you're not here. Do you get what I mean? But for as long as you're here.
So let me ask you a follow-up question, and I think it's key just to really pull it out. How did you get your mindset like that? Because that's not an everyday mindset. There's a lot of people that will look at the pessimistic side. How did you kind of develop that mindset?
I think it's a combination of like, I think it's a combination of who I've been around, but then at the same time, I think it's like, be it the result of being in anything that's high pressured and coming out of it successful. So everything that I had to navigate through to get to this position, I couldn't tell you everything, you know, day by day, year to year or whatever, but trust me, it was very hard. Like, it was very, very difficult. And I think whether you're, you know, you're running on the track doing 100 meters, or you're a doctor that's in like mad situations where they have to do like, you know, what's the word, operations, you know, like life-saving operations. I think that's just a attribute that you get. Anyone gets, sorry, for just being in a high-pressured situation and being one of those people who can deal with it. And I think when it comes to high-pressured situations, I've always been able to deal with it. And, you know, being this kid that's come from a council estate, and, you know, if you get this right, or if you achieve a certain thing, your life would never be the same again. I think that was all the fuel and motivation that I needed to just, like, what's the word, like, mold my mindset and make it stick like this permanently. Do you get what I mean? And I think it's the fact that I did it through my formative years as well. So the fact that I've been making music since I was like 15 or 16, so at an age where my mind was still malleable and all them kind of things.
Great answer. Thank you, man.
It's all good.
Yeah, too many gems, way too many gems in that. Even as I watch it back, I'm just thinking, man, like, Tinie's actually a legend. So, all right, let me, seeing as Nat wants to draw me out and put me on the spot, let me talk about my story. And I hope you were taking notes for Tinie's bit as well. So my story. So when I was younger, although I came from a great family and loving household, I made some bad choices that led me down some destructive pathways. One of those choices led me to getting stabbed at seven times when I was 21 years old. That night was crazy, and it spun my life into a dark place. I wasn't prepared for the battle that I had to embark on, but I'm so grateful to be alive and be able to share my story with you guys today. And after getting stabbed, I spent quite a few years trying to rebuild my self-confidence and well-being, because I'd suffered that quite a lot from post-traumatic stress, anxiety, low self-esteem, stuff like that. And so really what I want to talk to you guys about today is how did I overcome that chapter and become the man that I am today? So before anything, I made the conscious decision that I wanted to have a better future, and was willing to basically put the right sacrifices and choices in place every single day to kind of move me in the right direction. And that included, I guess, as we're talking about it today, the 6 key elements to well-being. And I guess the easiest way for me to break it down is to just walk through step by step so you can kind of see it in action. So the first thing would have been my social well-being. So I removed myself from toxic environments and people. And of course it was tough to do, but it was more about kind of almost learning to create good habits and finding out that that's actually a major key to success, as we'll learn later. I also began to choose what events I went to and who I spent time with. And this helped me to restructure my life and focus on doing things that added value to my day and made me feel comfortable, instead of, I guess, just saying yes to everyone and every situation. Next, I focused on my physical well-being. So after my attack, I put on quite a lot of weight, as you saw in the picture before, and I felt quite vulnerable when going out in public. You know, obviously getting violated like that, it's something where your mind's just constantly playing on you. And in order to tackle that, I started to work out and rebuild my strength. I began to practice something called Krav Maga, which is a form of self-defense practiced by the Israeli Defense Forces, sorry. And this began to really rebuild my confidence, protecting myself when I was out and about. You know, I just felt a lot more solid in terms of going out and about. The next thing, and one of the hardest battles, I guess, was my spiritual well-being. So in order for me to find my purpose in life and understand why I'd been spared, I began to really ask some deep questions about life and kind of what I believed about life. And by default, I'd grown up in church, as many of us would have been. You know, going with my family by default, like you know, it is what it is on a Sunday, right? It was more of a hindrance than a blessing. But I guess I had to kind of go through a process of challenging what I felt and really trying to understand what my personal faith was. And after lots of searching, I made a personal decision to build a relationship with Jesus and embody the love that he taught. And that's really given me like a new lease of life and a rock to stand on when time has been tough. And I think it's all about answering those hard questions when you're on that journey, you know, and everyone's journey is different. But I always say, pray like it's up to God and work like it's up to you. That's one of my favorite sayings. The next thing was about my economic well-being. And during this time, I developed my own property consultancy business from my bedroom. And that, I guess, was a major key to my success, because every day I was making like 50 to 100 phone calls, calling private landlords, trying to offer my service. And I heard every rejection under the sun, every swear word you can think of. They were just saying it to me every day. And I just kept pushing to try and get that one yes. And I guess just for them to give me an opportunity to prove myself. And this attitude really empowered me to grow a successful service and make my own resilience bulletproof. And it really allowed me to have, I guess, many other great experiences. Like I got married in the Caribbean to a beautiful girl. And also I was able to afford a mortgage on a property, which, you know, is a blessing in this day and age. Next is my intellectual well-being. So even though my business was booming, I still had a lack of theory and formal education that I guess would have really helped me to progress even better. And so for me, I had to really go back and focus on those areas that were kind of gaps. So no one told me in school that school was like free Wi-Fi, and all I had to do is just turn on my settings and just download everything that I need. No one had told me that, and I wish someone did, otherwise I would have been flying through life. So during school, although I was capable, as I said, I wasn't really engaged, and I left with no GCSEs. And this held me back for many, many years until I was willing to do something about it. So at the age of 24, I decided to go back to night college and study a business management qualification, graduating in front of my family. And it's still one of my proudest moments, I guess. And as I matured, I made the decision that only I was responsible for my education. So I invested in my own personal development, reading powerful books, you know, and watching YouTube videos on key topics like mindset, habits, business, sales, financial literacy. And I've put some examples here for you guys to see. So if you want, you can probably take a picture and check them out. Some of those are some key gems, trust me. And last but not least, definitely, and probably the most important thing I did was I worked on my mental well-being. You know, in order to do this, I had to clear out a lot of skeletons from my closet by facing my internal feelings and my battles head on. I also had to go through a therapeutic process to talk things out and really just release myself on things that I've been holding on for many, many years. And, you know, that really helped me to become the confident, happy, driven person that I am today. And it really completed my wellness journey, I guess. It wasn't easy, and there were lots of hard conversations I had to have with my loved ones. But over the last few years, I've been able to completely heal from things and you know, really be able to stand here, you know, as I said, as the person I am today. So each of those 6 key elements that we've spoken about before and I've just gone through today have played a part in making me a real model, not just a role model for young people. I'm now an award-winning social entrepreneur, an activist, and a filmmaker. And last year, I released a short film called Amani, which stars Javan Wade and Ellis Witter. And you might know Javan from Shiro's Story or the first Purge movie. In the first 4 days, we received 1 million views on YouTube. And we're actually, I think last time I checked, just before coming on here, we're about 5,000 views away from 3 million views, which is mind-blowing and super humbling. So yeah, I just really wanted to share my story with you, just to encourage you to work on your mind, body, and soul, and just know that it's an important and very lifelong journey, and everyone's journey is going to be different. But as they say, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So you have to make the decision. No one else can make it for you. You've got to keep moving in the right direction, like really seeking after healing and inner peace. So yeah, I hope my story gave you some hope for your own journey. And as I like to say, dig deep, keep going. You've got this, guys.
What a story. What a story.
Thanks, man.
And like, obviously, I think some people in the chat were saying that they've seen your film on YouTube. So you may have to
big up,
some of the
guys.
story
Big up
before as well. Big film, big film. But yeah, I think as your colleague and friend, like I've heard this story like a million times, it feels like, but it feels like the first time every time I hear it, because it's so impactful. And I think it's not only inspiring that you were able to actually overcome what happened to you and go on and do all these things in your life, like winning awards, championing for youth every day. Every day it feels like. You got big campaigns, you've got the film that's come out and everything, and you're doing a lot more. And I think it's not only that you've gone on to do these things, but I think your journey is really unique, how you're able to like harness all parts of developing your well-being holistically. So it really shows that you can, yeah, it's all right. It really shows that you can really overcome anything, and if you have the will and discipline to do so, and yeah, you reach out for different people. And I think a quote here by Tony Robbins, and he was actually on one of the speakers that inspired you or educated you on your last slide as well. But this quote here, it's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but it's what we do consistently. And I think, you know, part of that is your habits.